Hey everyone, welcome back to Project Potter. Welcome back to Gotta Get Back, our Samurai Jack and review show. My name is Kyle, your host. If you haven't seen the channel before, guys, thanks for checking out the content. Go check out the other content here. This is our Samurai Jack and review series, and this is episode 6 of season 1. So, if you guys haven't seen the show before, it's a recap. It's what I call the magic sword, which is going to be the best character, and it's going to be a portal in time, which is going to be the best, my favorite scene, score out of 10. Maybe some trivia or some Easter eggs at the end. That's pretty much it. So here we go, guys. Season 1, episode 6, which is called Jack and the Warrior Woman. It starts off and it's like an Aladdin vibe where it's like, you know, there's this town and there's all these like lizard creatures and stuff, and they all have turbans on their head and they're wrapped up, and it's just exotic music playing, and very much inspired by Aladdin. I would have to guess there, but it's cool because it's a very different vibe than what we've seen so far through the first 5 episodes. So Jack is going around in a hood. Where he got this, I don't know, but he's got like a hood on and he's traveling. There's like all these different like scriptures around, and he's got one with like an eye, and it's like a weird symbol. We don't know where he got this from, but either he found it or he was given it to it from someone. And he finds the building with this eye on there, and it's like they cut to the wall and there's like these weird skulls and these monkeys, and it's like very weird. It's like possessed. There's a chicken roasting over an open fire, and then there's like a little like creature lady that comes up, and she's like 1 foot tall. She's super short, but she comes up and she's like, "Oh yes, I know who you are. Come on." And he's like, "You know who I am?" And she opens up the blinds here, and there's an eternal light. She brings him to the back and she says, "Oh, we must look at the eternal light." And it's like this just like box on the floor with this light just like cascading up. And he's like, "Oh, I see. Okay." And she's like, "You put your hands into the eternal light." And it's like, I don't know if it's just like a projection or how they did it. So Jack puts his hands in the light and it forms like a crystal. And she's like, "Oh, yes, a crystal, one that can send you back in time." And he's like, "Yes, how do I get this?" And she's like, "Well, be warned, only those pure of heart can use it." And he's like, "That's no problem. My quest is noble. My heart is pure." He's like, "I have nothing to fear." She's like, "Oh, sweet." She's like, "Oh, there's one more thing." Well, she's like, "Follow the sun setting and the moon rising." He's like, "Great." But she's like, there's one catch. There's something evil. And it's like a whispery sort of thing that comes up. And then it like blows up. And then there's Aku's minions. And it's like these, I don't even know how to describe them. But they're like these kind of like shrouds. And then they have 4 arms, almost like a General Grievous. They have scimitars, like 4 of those, and so they're attacking. When the box like blows up, Jack's sword gets blown the other way, so he has to like improvise and fight with like the vase he picks up and the shield he picks up, and there's like he fights with the chicken stick for a little bit. It's really cool. There's some really cool shots where they are like honing in on him. And then there's a mysterious like woman that shows up, who is, every time I do that, this woman. I don't know if you can really see it. That woman over there, she says her name. I'll have to edit that in because I didn't remember it. I didn't write it down. But she helps him out, and he's like, "Oh, I need to get my sword." He gets the sword, and she's like, "Oh, it's about time you start helping." He's like, "I needed my sword." She's like, "I can see that." And then they just start kicking ass. They kill some of the minions, and then she jumps out the window, and he has to follow her because he says like, "Who are you and why did you help me?" And he follows her. The minions are following. There's a cool like bird's eye shot, which we haven't seen in the series so far, I think, of like going through the town, and it shows you that they're like going through the different like corridors, and it's like a city. Again, it's just like Aladdin, where there's like all these little crevices and corridors, and they're like kind of cutting through, and eventually she's like, "Oh, it's a yokel or something." She's like, and he's like, "What's that?" And she's like, "Oh, it's like a camel but different." And he's like, "Okay. Yeah." And she's like, "No, not yeah, hot, hot, hot." And he's like, "Okay, that's weird." But they get on their sort of camel things and they ride away. And then my favorite shot, spoilers, my favorite shot of the episode. So it goes full screen, and then it's just one shot across the board there. And it's really cool. It looks just like a movie of them like slowly riding into the frame, and then them side by side. But that's, like, they don't use the whole screen intentionally, and it's really, really cool. Then it cuts back to full screen where they're eating like at the fire, and Jack is kind of like interested. He's like giving her the cute like look where he's looking, and then he like looks away, and he's like he's pretending not to look. There's like a little mouse thing that looks kind of weird. but it's got like super long nose. It eats the food from Jack, and then it goes towards the woman, and it's like terrified. And this is like a big hint at what's to come later. But she gets kind of mad that it goes back in the dirt, and then Jack like just laughs it off. You think he would be like concerned that this little creature who's harmless was really afraid of this woman, but we find out why that is later. So she tells the story, and she kind of manipulates the fire between them, where she says like, hey, I used to fight a coup as well. My father fought him way back when. So she's like, my mission is to find him. I've been searching for 5 years, but with the ruckus that we made, it's probably going to be at least another 5 years before I can find him. And he's like, oh, you're looking for a coup? My mission is also a coup. He's like, it's no coincidence that we met. And yes, it's not a coincidence, but it's not for the reason that Jack wanted, unfortunately. But he's like, come on, we can do this together. We need to follow the falling sun and the rising moon. And then the moon comes up, and he's like, yes, that's our path. The path is set. Together we will succeed. And there's like the moon behind them, and it's a really cool shot. But then there's like this hot track that plays. It's like a club track almost. And it plays like basically the rest of the episode. But there's like a huge montage where they ride off. There's a huge sandstorm where they get stuck in the sand. But, it seems like they're getting along pretty well. They have some really awesome like monster battles where there's like a huge like purple snake thing that comes up and actually swallows her whole with the camel, whatever it's called. And she actually cuts through it, like right through its throat to like get out, and she's dripping. So she's kind of annoyed and her hair's all messed up. So that's a cute little scene. And then they're running most of the time. She gets swooped up by like this huge like gargoyle type creature. And Jack runs up, and he actually like hits it. And then he like points it down like when your dog gets in trouble or something. And he just like smacks it and then pulls on its ear, and it drops her. And they keep going there. So then they're still running. Jack's going into like quicksand, and she at the last second like extends like a twig or something to help him out. And so he's starting to trust her, and he thinks everything's good. They fall asleep. Then they wake up the next day in a town, or they don't wake up at the town, sorry. But they run to the town the next day. There's like a sultan there. They have this great feast. There's like exotic dancers there. There's like a big genie, basically. Again, very inspired by Aladdin, I'm sure. And then they're still running. There's a sequence of like the night and the day passing. So obviously they've been running for like 2 days at least. I don't know what happened to the camel things. They just like stopped using them at some point. So I don't know if they died or what happened, but they eventually get to like what is obviously always a mirage or a trick, where it's like right in the middle of the desert. It's a bunch of trees around an oasis or a set of water. And he's like, is it a mirage? And she's like, I don't know, but we should find out. And they go in there. She's like, oh, water. She starts drinking it. And Jack doesn't quite understand, but they do see the green floating crystal like above. And he's like, oh, perfect. Here it is. He's like, magic crystal. We have defied all the odds to get here. He's like, let us use your power or whatever and fulfill our destinies. And nothing happens for a minute. And then it shoots down. And she's like, what is happening? And he's like, the crystal can only be used by the purest of heart. He's like, it's a test for us. And it like reads them and then comes back, and then like the ground shakes, and he's like, something's wrong. And then this giant like super genie with like 6 arms comes through. It's really, really cool. And he's like trying to, like, he's huge, and Jack is like, oh shit. So then the woman, she starts like whipping around, flying around, and he's like, you possess the power of flight. And she's like, oh, and much more. And then she grows super big, and Jack goes, what is happening? And it's funny because I was like kind of thinking the same thing. But she kind of beats up the genie, and she throws him. She gets the crystal. And he's like, yes, we have succeeded. And then what does she do? But she smashes the crystal. And Jack is like, what are you doing, dude? She starts laughing, and then she transforms. And guess what? It's been a coup the whole time. This was pretty obvious because she has literally the same color scheme as a coup, and she's like kind of painted green. So it was obvious, like looking back on it, but it was, I guess, a nice little twist. But he's like, oh, foolish samurai warrior. He's like, I knew there was a crystal that could send you back in time. Once I found that out, I had to like get to it so that I could destroy it. And he's like, you will continue to live in this Aku infested land, forever or whatever. And he flies away. And Jack is like, it's really awesome because Jack screams and he like runs at him with a sword. He's like, fight me, you coward. He's like, I will fight you. But he's like, only when I find out how to beat that sword. And it's like, oh, dude, that's a cheap answer. But Aku is like, I mean, he has no reason to fight him now, so he turns into a bat and he flies away. And poor Jack, man, he just got duped, and he's just gotta continue on his journey. He like stabs his sword into the ground, he yells in frustration, and that's how the episode ends. Okay, guys, for the magic sword for this one, I have to give it to Aku, dude. Aku played Jack like a fiddle in this episode. I mean, he turned himself into this woman who he obviously made an attractive woman. He knew that Jack would be keen to her and fall for her a little bit. And not only did he lead, or he kind of used Jack to get to the crystal so that he could destroy it, because we're assuming he didn't know where it was. But yeah, he just straight up played Jack. And like, Aku is a mastermind of evil, and you gotta give him credit for being one step ahead of Jack. So he's getting my magic sword in this one. So a portal in time, guys. I mentioned it earlier. It's that one shot in the middle when they ride out of town, and it's like, it's so cool when it goes from full screen to that middle shot for a little bit, then back to full screen. Really, really cool. Really adds that movie like samurai movie of like effect there. It's like cool. It's almost like a filter, except it's obviously just an animation choice that they did. A show that's so known for their 3 frames, when they just do one horizontal in the middle, it's really cool because they don't do that very often. And so it's a good change of pace. And I really liked that scene and kind of that whole sequence that followed. For a score for this one, it was clever. It was good. The action was pretty good. Most of it was just a montage. But I'm going to give it an 8.4 because I thought it was really clever what Aku did. Again, it's obvious looking back at the color scheme and how she's acting. And the big tip off was when the mouse thing didn't eat, or was terrified it wouldn't eat her food. It knew that she was evil. And it knew that it was Aku, basically. And so, like, looking back, it was obvious, but at the time, I guess it was maybe not so obvious, but it's a cool trick. The music is good. The montage is nice. Poor Jack, man, you gotta start feeling for him because he's just getting, like, over and over, he's just getting thwarted on his plans. But obviously that's kind of part of the journey, so he'll get stronger from it. And yeah, solid episode. Okay, guys, for Jack Facts, we do have Jack Facts this week. So it is the return of Jack Facts. We have a bunch. So number 1 Jack Fact, this is the first time that Aku has appeared to Jack since he was sent to the future. So the first time that they meet up in the future in face-to-face, which is cool. This is also the first episode where Aku changed his voice when shape-shifting. So yeah, when he turns into the bat at the end, he's obviously still Aku's voice, but I mean, he transformed into this woman and obviously had a completely different voice the whole time. So again, Aku just played him like a fiddle, man. There's also Ikra is her name, by the way. And then it just says there are many hints of true self throughout the episode. The color scheme is that of Aku's, which we mentioned. The shaman senses the ultimate evil, and Jack, thinking it's the robot sent to kill him, agrees. The shaman tries to warn Jack, "You don't understand," and he like runs away. So I didn't touch on that, but yeah, she's like, "You don't understand the evil," and he's like, "I do understand it." He's like, "Let me fight the robots." He thinks it's the robots, but it's not. It's Aku. She's trying to tell him like, "Yo, Aku is the woman," and he wasn't listening to that. So that's interesting that he just ran away from that. After Jack and Ikra escape from Aku's robots, the robots simply stop their chase and close their eyes with satisfaction. And this is kind of a hint at deception at play. I talked about the mouse accepting food from Jack. It's terrified when Ikra attempts to do the same thing. Ikra's backstory and motives are eerily similar to Jack's. So that's what I was thinking as well. When she says, like, my father fought Aku, it's like, well, that's what Jack did. So very clearly he got inspiration from there. At the banquet, Ikra seemed to enjoy the female belly dancer, but when the male one entered, she seemed disturbed, hinting that she's actually a male. So that's a little bit different. When the jewel tests Jack and Ikra's hearts, it found out that Ikra is pure evil. The Guardian tries to attack Ikra, and Jack only got hurt by accident. And then near the end, Ikra can fly, become a giant to defeat the Jewel Guardian. So yeah, and then the last one here, guys, Ikra is seemingly surprised to hear Jack refer to himself by his adopted name, despite having referred to the warrior as Samurai Jack just 3 episodes prior. So we got a whole slew of Jack Facts. So we didn't have Jack Facts the last couple episodes. Well, we made up for it in this one for sure. So those are your Jack Facts, guys. Just fun little hints and tidbits and information there. for this week. All right, guys. Well, that is another episode of Gotta Get Back. Thanks for checking out Project Potter. Thanks for checking out the Gotta Get Back episode here. We are halfway through the first season now, so having a blast doing that. I hope you guys enjoy it. Hopefully poor Jack doesn't get deceived too many times, but we know he's probably heading towards it. So yeah, like, comment, subscribe, guys. Ring the bell notification. You already know the deal. Thanks for checking out the content. I hope you guys enjoyed this. And until next time, guys, gotta get back.